Business is messy and unpredictable.
Sometimes lonely.
So lonely.
So lonely.
And inspiration can often come from really weird places.
We pick up where the bullet point blogs and the highlight reels leave off.
We start with the stories. Welcome back to So Here's My Story. I'm Jodi.
I'm Eliot.
And last week we did an episode on my daughter having pneumonia.
And this week,
since then, my son has pneumonia and I and my husband have like debilitating bronchitis. So there's a scourge up on my house and I'm considering just burning the place to the ground.
And by the way, for our listeners who haven't seen us on video, because we're not on video, I'm sitting, I don't know, about 3 feet away from Jodi, so my house is probably next.
Well, I licked your microphone before we started, so we should be good. If you are enjoying our podcast, we've so appreciated hearing from you by emails, by text, by Facebook Messenger. Keep those things coming. They truly, literally make our day when we hear from our listeners and get to have conversations with you. And also tell a friend. We're really focusing in this next year on growing the listenership. So share it with a friend who might enjoy it, and because we hope to have more of us on the line. So
okay, so what follows is my story, an introduction to an episode worth revisiting, and a non-bronchitis-filled episode just for Jodi.
Bum, bum, bum.
So here's my story, and in mentioning this, I think you'll recognize a callback to one of our very early episodes, which I looked up before going on air as episode 11.
Whoa.
Yes.
Episode 11. What? Am I supposed to know what episode 11 was?
Well, I will tell you what episode. Well, you know what? You can guess. Here's the story. I was contacted by a friend of mine who ran into a difficult situation. She's a consultant. She was hired by the company to be an executive coach of sorts to this one member of the management team who, during her engagement, wound up being let go by the company.
Okay.
Well, she understood the reasons, and they were very personal to him, and he was very bitter. He was very angry, and he was talking to her about all of these things. And at the same time, her bill is being paid by the company. The company is telling her to cut ties, and he's leaning on her emotionally as well as for other reasons in this coaching situation.
Okay.
And it looked like...
I hope this wasn't episode 11 because I don't remember any of this. Okay.
No, I'll get to it. It looked like litigation was going to result. There was a whole thing.
Oh,
so she called me. She didn't want to get a subpoena. She was really worried about it. So we had a couple of calls and I talked her through it. We kind of went through the various scenarios and what to do. She wound up extricating herself from this situation and everything wound up to be really good. And so she sent me an email. She was very appreciative. She sent me an email and she said, "Can you verify for me your office address?"
Wait, to pay the bill? Was she a client?
No, I didn't bill her.
Oh, you did her a favor.
I just did her a favor. I didn't bill her at all. Yeah. So she said,
I know where this is going.
She said, "Can you just send me your office address?" Or
oh my God, was she going to thank you?
Yes. So
like as a compliment?
Kind of. And so, but here's my thought process. You know, I'm like, well, geez, if I send her the office address. Now, I later found out, just by way of clarification, my office address is on the bottom of each email in my email signature, but she had heard me mention that I live in Pennsylvania and my email signature has the office address in Maryland. So she wasn't sure.
Which is where your office is, but okay.
Yeah, which is where my office is, but she wasn't sure. So she wanted me to verify. But I knew that if I verified, for me, this is my thought process, it was saying, hey, here's the address to which you can send my thank you gift.
Whoa, okay. So you didn't even know that's what she wanted it for. But
no, I didn't know.
It's a good presumption.
But that was my presumption. And so...
Please tell me you responded.
I did not.
No, you didn't.
I did not respond.
Elliot Wagenheim.
I did not respond because I thought, I didn't want to just say, hey, here's where you can send my gift. So... So you made her track it down? No.
And you made extra work for her?
No, I knew I was going to be seeing her in a couple of weeks. We were going to be at the same meeting up in New Jersey.
You really are the worst, by the way. I just want to say that right now. Go ahead.
So I saw her and she came up to me and she's like, look, I really appreciate, you're taking your time. It really wasn't that much time, but I really appreciate you're taking your time and doing all this. It really wasn't all that much.
To her it was.
Yeah. And she said, but why didn't you respond when I asked you for your address? I said, because it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. And I thought if I sent you my address, then you were going to send me something. I didn't want you to feel obligated to send me something. I didn't.
Absolute worst.
I didn't want to send anything like I just said.
You could have just said, like, I wanted to suck all the joy out of your gratitude for you.
So she said, first of all, she looked at me, she started laughing. She goes, that's just ridiculous. And then she goes, I thought it would be cool. I had this thing, so I was just going to send ice cream in this pack for you in your office because there's this really neat ice cream place and they know how to ship it. I was going to send it for you in your office, which there's a whole nother story when I told people in my office. So she was excited about really something. Upset. She was excited.
And it was going to be fun for her.
It was going to be fun for her.
And you've vampires sucked the joy out of it for her by not responding.
That's one way to put it. But so she just kind of dismissed that and kind of was shaking her head. And I told her, by the way, I said, my podcast co-host and close friend Jodi I can feel her standing right here in this conversation, yelling at me just in unison with you.
Yeah. So okay, we have a couple choices here. And I think I have an idea. So we could again have episode 11 where we talk about your complete lack of ability to take compliments and my staunch philosophical view on how it is important that we all be able to take compliments.
And you can add in episode 11, you could also say when the word compliment comes up, add the word gratitude or anything
gratitude,
like that.
Compliments, thank yous, appreciation of any form.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which has been my basic experience of you. Or especially given the fact that I barely have a voice this week.
Yes. Yeah,
why don't we replay episode 11
we can replay it
because I think at least you need to rehear it and maybe somebody else does too.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So here's my story. I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport and I was sitting with my client waiting for a flight. And we had a couple hour layover, so we had a chance to actually talk beyond just pleasantries and small talk. And we had just finished up a pretty complicated deal. My client was buying a company out in that area, and the negotiations were contentious. We had to be really creative in the terms. It was touch and go, and the deal wound up going at the end even better than expected, and my client was going to make just a good bit of money. It exceeded his expectations. And he said to me, Elliot, I just wanted to tell you, we pay your bill, of course, and we work with you because we like what you do. But I don't think I ever really told you that how much we value what you do.
Oh my God, I can imagine you. I know you, and I can imagine you cringing in this moment and desperately trying to think of what else to say to deflect the conversation, right?
Absolutely. And
you know how I feel about that.
Yes. And it got a little bit worse because he said, and I was wondering, would you be offended if we added additional money on top of the bill? He says, I don't know how to thank you.
Did the skin fall off your body?
And I just said, no. I think that's when I made a beeline for the Cinnabon because you're right. I don't like those conversations. I mean, look, I appreciate them. I'm sure everybody does, but if somebody said to me, Elliot, like in some sort of meditation exercise, Elliot, conjure up something that makes you extremely uncomfortable, I would conjure up that conversation. I just can't stand it. I know this isn't I was going to say, I'm sort of grinning over here because I feel like this is sort of a setup. I feel like you're softballing me a topic that I get all ranty about. No, well, I do know you get ranty about it, but it was the first thing when we were talking about stories or we were thinking about stories. I was thinking about this one because I did not know how to react except to just say, and I like your tie. I mean, I had no idea.
At least you said that. So that's a step in the right direction. And, maybe you'll get a word in edgewise for the next half an hour because I may just go off on, I have a lot to say on this. I'm going to go get a coffee.
Just keep going.
I have a lot to say on this because I think it's really, really, really important, not just in a personal development-y kind of way, but
I am stunted in that way, yes.
Yeah. But in a really important way for business as well. So at least you said that. At least what you didn't do was what I really can't stand, which I just really get upset about, is you didn't tell him why he was wrong. You didn't say, oh, no, don't be silly. I'm not that great at this. Or, kind of try and talk him out of the thing that he's trying to express.
I just did what everybody would do. Is that?
No. I think the first, and let me just say for a second, it is, when I've always considered myself someone who will tell people the truth. Mm-hmm. And, I will tell them the hard truths. And that's the part that gets talked about in a lot of like coaching training and all these, being an advisor and whatnot is like, are you, do you have the spine to tell your client the hard truths and the emperor has no clothes? I got to tell you, it is a hell of a lot easier to get people to believe the bad stuff about themselves than it is to get them to sit still and even listen to, not to mention, believe and digest the good stuff.
It is for me. I absolutely.
No, I almost have to like strap you down to give you a compliment. So here's why I think that's important. A couple things. In a minute, I'll get to why I think it's important for the person receiving. But I think something that gets completely overlooked that I actually get almost like angry about is two things. The giving and receiving of any kind, whether it's a compliment or help with something, is an ecosystem. It is a finely balanced ecosystem. And if I want to do you a favor or give you a compliment in any way, kind of contribute or give, if you aren't willing, and so I throw you a ball, if you're not willing to catch it, it doesn't work. It's not a one-sided seesaw. Like there has to be somebody on the other side of the seesaw for that continuum to actually work. And so when I want to give somebody a compliment, partly because I'm not someone who gives like blow smoke compliments. I don't say great job unless I meant it. And I say great job, or I appreciate this about you, or this matters to me, or I really value this about you. I say those things when I'm the person saying those things because they mean something to me. They're meaningful. They are mine. And this is the part that gets funny. When someone says like, tells me why I'm wrong. Oh, no, blah, blah. I'm not that good at that. I want to just be like, excuse me, stop. You don't get to weigh in on what I think about you. It's actually none of your business what I think. And this is my thought and my feeling. And you don't get to tell me that I'm wrong.
Right. I get to tell you you're mistaken.
So just shut up and say thank you. So I think there's that like responsibility to realize that you're actually wrecking something for someone else when you can't just say thank you. And we've all had that happen. Like, you want to help somebody with something. Lots of us love to help people, but cannot stand to let other people help us. Mm-hmm. But we don't get to do the, I like to help people or I like to compliment people if that person doesn't accept it. So I wish we could just all be a little easier with it. But the other reason I think it's important is that I don't think you can grow as a person or grow as an entrepreneur or grow as a company, frankly, if you don't solidly build on what already works really well. Like there has to be that foundation of acknowledgement of this is what we're good at. This is what I'm good at. This is what I uniquely do better than other people. Also balanced out by years where I uniquely fail compared to other people. But to build on those things of what works. And so I years and years and years ago, I was equally bad at accepting a compliment. And I just started, and I don't even remember why, but when somebody would say something to me that I was wildly uncomfortable with, that just made the skin want to fall off my body, if I couldn't say, oh yeah, I agree with you, I'm that awesome, which of course is really, really hard.
Right.
The very least was I held myself to a very tough standard of just simply saying, thank you. Just say thank you so that you don't disrupt the ecosystem. And here's what's fascinating. If you can just do that for a little bit, and then I'll actually let you get a word in here in a minute, you start to actually make space for the possibility that those things are true. And it begins to have this it's almost like a Tetris game. It starts to build this kind of basis at the foundation that you can then build on. I really think it's fundamental. I see it happen with clients as they can accept what they do really well. They actually can grow much, much more. Whereas if they only stay focused on where they have space to grow, they slog.
And I can see that intellectually. I think there's an intellectual and there's an emotional component to it. I was always taught that if your work speaks for itself, don't interrupt. Mm-hmm. And so I have a hard time proclaiming anything. I have a hard time when people are paying me a compliment. I'll give you an example of how I had to at least overcome it in one instance. In building my firm, every single marketing person that I talked to said, you should really have testimonials on your website. And the thing about testimonials that made it so cringeworthy to me is that meant I could either be completely fraudulent in my eyes and write them myself and just make up this person. That's, you're excellent. So says Bob S. from whatever company. Or, which, believe it or not, I do know people who have done that. Believe it or not. I see the look on your face, and I'm drawing that from real examples
that
and conversations I've
awful,
had. Horrible.
Yeah.
So that's not really an alternative. So that meant I had to go to clients and in my mind say, hey, listen, could you say some awesome things about me so I could write them down?
See, okay, that's fascinating to me because that's not what you're asking, right? You're just saying like, tell me what just give me your words. How would you describe what we do?
Well, yes, in a way, but I'm saying, I'm giving them a context. I'm not sending out a Survey Monkey poll saying rate us on a scale of 1 to 5. What I'm saying is I was hoping that I could put a testimonial on my website, which means I was hoping you'd say something awesome about me that I could capture and then broadcast. So I have a bunch of things I could say about that, but I don't want to miss the initial point we started on here, which is I think there's lots of ways to get around that, but we're actually talking about something different, which is when the good is staring you right in the face and you didn't have to request it and you won't accept it. So what's going on then? I don't like I get so uncomfortable because I don't like the feeling of it. I believe, so the thing I love about what I do is I get to help people, which seems so cliche, but the best thing about what I do is when I'm on the phone with the client and they say, geez, I'm so glad I called you. I feel so much better about this. Whatever it is, could be a 5-minute conversation, 3-minute conversation, 4-hour conversation. So you're okay with that. When somebody says, gosh, I feel better at the moment. Yes. It's just if they stick the word, if they say you make me feel better, then you're like, if they say, I called you because you're excellent at this and you do this and I don't want that. I don't want to. It makes me uncomfortable. So I get that it makes you uncomfortable. Yeah. Can you truly stand behind the statement that you don't want that? Yes, I want them to feel that way. I don't want them to say it. I just want them to keep it to themselves because it's the interchange that makes me uncomfortable. For you. For me, yeah. Is that important enough that you would deny them the joy of sharing that feeling? So in your moment, not to put too fine a point on it, but your priority of your comfort level is you're prioritizing that over their need or want to express their experience. Well, I won't hang up on them. Click. I'm going through a tunnel. Put your fingers in your ears. La, 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 la. I don't do that, but I really will, and you know this from our conversation, I really will go to whatever lengths I can to You are a master of deflection. Yeah, and I will tell them. And you have actually left the room. Yes, I do. I'll leave the room, which says more about my social skills than I really care to go into on this episode. But I will. I don't like that. And just to wrap up, and I grant there's a difference between asking for the compliments and just receiving it. But even in the testimonials, I called up one of my clients and I started stammering about the fact that, and he'd been with me for so long, and I started stammering about what I wanted. And what I really wanted was I just wanted to send the video crew to his office and have him answer a couple questions and whatever. So I stammered, geez, if you can do this, and I know, look, it's no big deal if you can't do this, and I completely understand, and really it's no hard feelings if you can't, but this is what I was trying to do, so please let me know, and remember, it's absolutely fine. So when I finally got to the point of this is what I wanted a testimonial, he stopped, and in that horrifying 2 seconds of silence, I just envisioned that he would just leave me forever. But he said, geez, Elliot, I thought you were going to ask me for a kidney. He said, sure, just send them over. Oh, wow. I've been with you for 10 years. Yeah. It's not because I'm waiting to find somebody I really like. Well, so here's what's so interesting to me about that. I love that we're talking about this in the context of you, because you're the perfect example for this, to use as a guinea pig on this topic, because you have sat across this table from me
And in the number of episodes we've done so far, on numerous occasions, talked about understanding your value, knowing your value, accepting your value, and the importance when it comes to sales, when it comes to pricing, when it comes to a million different things. It's a pretty core fact. I mean, a core topic, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the part that gets missed here, and am I wrong that if somebody said to you those things about Wagenheim Law, you would be less uncomfortable?
Yeah, because I have more people, because I know I work
it's
with
not
great
you.
people. It's
right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the hypothesis that I am positing here is that your company or your department or whatever is hemmed in by your own ability, like the degree to which you can accept that kind of compliment is determines the upper limit for how much where the company can go there. I think it's core to like being able to accept your value. And I'm not talking about being egotistical here or, fluffing up your perception of who you are, being arrogant. This is just accepting the fact that someone else's experience of you is fill in the blank X. And that you are able to me, it's a little bit like those equalizer things. Like, are you as readily able to accept the good stuff as you are the bad stuff? Because I suspect that if one of your clients said, Elliot, I'm having this problem with you, it's hard to hear, but you would welcome that pretty openly, right?
That would be, weird way. That would be easier for me, harder to hear, but an easier conversation for me to have because I want to hear what they have to say. I want to get in and talk about the details and have them give full expression to what's behind their comment.
You just used the term full expression, and yet you really only mean it to as long as it's bad.
Well, I'll go as far as neutral, but so
I'll take neutral to bad, but stick with that for a second. We talk a lot about the tagline of this podcast is real, honest business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to hear from our listeners on that. Like, are you able to hear both sides of real? Like, are you as willing to sit with, hey, I have this issue with you, as you are with, hey, I love this about you? And because my suspicion is if either one of them feels stunted, because some people are better at listening to the comments like, ooh, yay, I'm doing good at something. And they aren't able to take constructive criticism. Like, I think there is a very important practice in the same way that you might have a spiritual practice or a physical practice I think this is an important practice of developing your muscles, of being able to be with both ends of real and authentic. And
tell me though, and you have said some things about this, but tell me, when I brought up this story and you said it's going to be a rant, it's going to because this is why is this such a hot button for you?
So the hot button part of it is that, part of it I can get very philosophical about it, like I just did. Like, I really do think it's a fundamental core stair step in being able to do more, is that first you have to accept what you're really good at. But frankly, it's a very selfish thing. When I feel moved to tell someone, and I have this in fact, I actually was just sending a little message on my way here this morning. I saw a post from a friend of mine who I really care about. And I don't know that I've ever said to her, like, you really matter. Like, just even this little things I see, like, it matters to me. And I have this like superstitious regret avoidance kind of thing of, I don't ever want there to be someone in my life ever who doesn't know how I feel about them. That if I care about them, if they matter to me, if I like something about them or appreciate the style, the way they dress or whatever it is, I want them to know that, because I think I get a lot of, probably because I get a lot of value out of those things like that. It feeds me when people say those things. And when someone won't accept it and they're just, it's like they've got a tennis racket and I'm trying to tell them something that is mine. It's my opinion of you when I tell you that I like something about you or that I appreciate it or that it matters to me. And so it's mine and you're like batting it away and like stomping it to the ground. I almost get defensive about it. I'm like, how dare you tell me that how I feel about this is wrong. That's the thing. I think I get ranty about it because it's one of those things that to the person, and when I used to be not as good at this, it feels like you're being selfless in that moment. Like, oh, no, not me. Like, it feels like you're doing the right, you're being humble. And I do think I have nothing against being humble. And I'm certainly not, again, preaching to be arrogant. But I actually think it is incredibly selfish to not be able to accept somebody's compliment, like offensively selfish.
Okay, but there are two sides to that. So on the one, you say you get defensive. You're the compliment giver, and you've gotten defensive because the person on the receiving end has not accepted this, whether you want to call it a gift or a gesture or a statement, whatever it is, they haven't accepted what you've decided to give. And I understand why the rejection of that would make you as the compliment giver
it makes me
upset.
Sad.
It makes you sad.
I don't actually get angry. I'm sad that they can't hear it.
Okay, and fair enough. But then we started out talking about the person to whom the compliment is being given. And you said that you think that they're doing a disservice to themselves for not accepting that. And is it because you feel that if they don't accept the compliment, if they don't absorb the compliment, that they won't have true insight into where they do have value?
So, it's funny as you said that I was trying to think what my answer is because I mean, even though this comes up a lot, I haven't really dissected it into pieces. And I think I actually almost got a little sad as you were saying that, thinking about what it is. So yeah, I mean, I could wax philosophical about it and it'd be like the cornerstone of developing your blah, 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 blah. But
I don't know why that struck me.
That's my guru voice, I guess. But
right up until the blah, 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 blah.
Here's the fundamental truth. I think a lot of times people spend a lot of time feeling lonely or not good enough or like they don't measure up or far too cognizant of where they need to improve. I feel like it's almost like there's a vitamin deficiency there in a lot of folks of not being able to really own, evidenced by the fact that they can't. I mean, if you said like, hey, your hair's brown, you wouldn't argue with me. Like, no, your hair's just brown. It's a fact. You're not going to argue. I'm making an observation. You're agreeing with it. Done. Like, so the fact that they can't accept it means that they don't believe it, won't believe it, even though I am observing it and speaking to it. There's a refusal to believe it. And that makes me really sad. And because it does absolutely to me feel like a vitamin deficiency. And I'm trying to give you a shot of B12 and you won't take it.
And I understand, although I would draw a distinction.
I love how much you want to argue with me about this, by the way. I
absolutely want to argue. Well, it's by temperament and by training. And also because the theme of the episode seems to be, my personality deficiencies. But there's a difference, though, I would say, for all people who feel the way I do. I'm speaking to Compliment Rejection Nation. There's a difference between saying that I don't believe it and I just get uncomfortable with the expression of it.
Yes. So what I don't hold a bar here where, I say, wow, you're great at that. And you say, hot damn, yes, I am. I'm the best at that. That is not my point here. The discomfort, I still get very uncomfortable so you came out to see my band play last night. When people walk up to me and say, oh, you're a really great singer, when they give it, I don't know what to say. I'm often very awkward and I laugh what I can only describe as an awkward, nervous giggle. And I go, thank you. Like I don't go, yeah, I know we're awesome, aren't we? That's not the point. In fact, I actually would say that's a symptom of taking it too far. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And it's probably appropriate for it to feel awkward. It's like the warmth of the spotlight. I think that's it. I think we're all hungry for that spotlight. And then when it gets there, we deflect out of it as quickly as possible. So all I really want is to just be able to take one breath in that space and just say thank you so that it can sit there for just a second and there just be that pause of it so that, I don't know, it's the best I can say it.
No, and it completely makes sense, which is why, by the way, when people give us a 5-star review and an excellent, write-up on what we do, I promise you, I will just say thank you.
Oh, nice.
So that's our story.
But the discussion doesn't have to end here.
No, it does not.
In fact, we don't want it to.
No, we don't.
That is why we actually have our private Facebook group,
which we started to make sure that we could get your comments, your rants, your thoughts,
your stories.
Your stories.
You can find links to that group as well as show notes and links to subscribe via email and how to find us just about anywhere you can possibly find podcasts at sohere'smystory.com.
And you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at SHMS Podcast.
And since we know it takes a village.
Yes, it does.
We'd like to thank our village, our super talented, incredibly patient team.
And occasionally snarky team.
Yeah, but in the best of ways.
In the best of ways.
Snarky.
Yes.
Good mockery.
So a huge shout out to the people who actually help us produce our show. First, our sound engineer, Tom Hansen.
Thanks to Christy Schmier for our brilliant show notes and all the other fantastic writing she does for us.
And to Taylor Mathauer for doing just a little bit of everything.
Including wrangling us. Which is no small feat.
No, it's not.
This is Jodi Hume.
And I'm Eliot Wagenheim.
And you've been listening to So Here's My Story.